Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to give this address today. At this consultation workshop to develop a 8-year strategic implementation plan for the policy on spatial and inclusive education. As you know, plans allow us to, or gives us a framework within which we can work. It allows us to use the available and limited resources to get the maximum benefit out for the designated people. So it's a very important task that you are undertaking today. I believe you've got a draft one that you'll be working on fine-tuning, and as often reminded by people that we need to undertake a consultation, and this is very good that you have embarked on a 3-day workshop to do just that. And thank you all for coming today, who are representing your various institutions at this very important workshop. And I'm also happy to note that within our ranks we are fortunate to have the experienced personnel, not only in education but also with a personal experience in disability. I met one yesterday evening and was quite taken aback by his ability to communicate. And he said something about what we're doing in education in his own way. Ladies and gentlemen, the combination of expertise that we have in the workshop is critical to ensure that the deliberations and debates are informed and dynamic. I trust that this will result in directions and decisions which are strategic and well constructed. And I do hope that the plan is a rolling plan, something which we can revisit every year, probably shorter, probably have a 1-day workshop just to revisit and relook at how we can further fine-tune with the endowment of resources at that particular point in time, or with the availability of new knowledge at that particular point in time. So it's good to always have a rolling plan. I'm fully aware that you have come ready to work hard for these 3 days to develop a strategy to improve the ability of our system to provide access to quality education for children, youth, and adults with disabilities. As you know, our government is absolutely committed to the core principles of no one left behind. So we need to consider and plan for how that principle is enacted. Despite a solid structure and history of special schools across Fiji, the National Disability Survey in 2010 indicated that only 21% of people with disability had completed a primary school. This is consistent with evidence globally, where access to local schools is not available for children and youth with disabilities. Many of these children remain at home. It's important that we look at the statistics and realize how a good 79% of them are deprived of those things that some of us are taking for granted. We quibble about little things that is missing in the package of free education. But here is a small but significant number of people or children who also have a desire to go to a school, get the basic education, hoping for normal life. But in our race for interim solutions, we have forgotten them. And thank you for institutions like ICAP who have decided to partner with us to do more for those who could come into the net. Ladies and gentlemen, as noted by UNESCO in 1994, regular schools with inclusive orientation are the most effective means of combating discriminatory studies, attitudes, creating welcoming communities, and building an inclusive society and achieving education for all. Moreover, they provide an effective education to the majority of children and improve the efficiency and ultimately the cost effectiveness of the entire education system. End quote. The 2013 Constitution of the Republic of Fiji includes significant provisions for persons with disabilities, including the right to reasonable access to all places, public transport and information, sign language, braille and other means of communication, reasonable access to necessary material, substance and devices relating to the person's disability, reasonable adaptation of buildings, practices and procedures to enable them to fully participate in the society and the effective realization of their rights. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see the Constitution is quite well advanced in terms of providing an overall framework and its ability to recognize that there do exist people with special needs, and therefore calling on silently in its own way different institutions to respond and do something for these who are excluded from the normal activities. Furthermore, the Constitution enshrines the right of every person to early childhood, primary and secondary and further education. In addition, the right to access quality education in local schools is supported by various acts and captured in the Ministry of Education's policy on effective implementation of special and inclusive education endorsed in 2011. Ladies and gentlemen, Fiji is proud to be one of the Pacific's leading countries in the move to embrace and expand inclusive education as upheld in global and regional charters such as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, particularly outlined in Article 24, the Incan strategy to make the right real for persons with disability in Asia and the Pacific Education Development Framework. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now up to every one of us to talk about this publicly, to raise awareness, to raise the conscience of those of us who are fortunate to contribute in their own little ways to institutions that exist to look after them. I do suggest that the media will play a very important critical role in doing this, as they've done in the past, so that private sector comes in and supports this institution, which are in dire need of resources. I do hope that the media will one day visit the special schools and develop documentaries which could be shown to the rank and file who are not able to come to the institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, in partnership with Ministry of Education, the Access to Quality Education Program, ICAP, a number of projects and initiatives have gone forward in line with the policy objective. 5 mainstream schools have been piloting inclusive education through ICAP since January 2013. In 2014, training was conducted for 345 primary schools, heads, teachers, and 34 secondary school principals. Special schools have been supported through the allied health team of Australian volunteers to strengthen classroom strategies for children with disabilities and to strengthen their use of individual education plans. An increasing number of regular schools are enrolling children with disabilities. So this is quite encouraging. And in the ministry, we tend to look at schools, which new schools that will come up, how we could make it access and user-friendly for children with special disabilities, and also start equipping materials which allow them to participate in the normal teaching. For example, introduction of sign language. It'll take time because we need to equip our teachers also, but we need to start somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, prior to the ministry's policy and prior to the arrival of IQAP, Fiji has had a long history of commitment into the education of children with disabilities. The network of special schools has been a vital system in which thousands of Fijian children have received education and have been supported and prepared for transitions either to mainstream schools or to vocational training and onward to employment. I'm aware of an impressive growth in the number of children being supported to transition from special schools to mainstream schools in recent times. I'm also aware that for some children, these attempted transitions do not work, and I would like to see a proper examination of these challenges by experts who could advise us on this. Other than the special schools, there are a few notable schools who have been educating children with special education needs in an inclusive way over many years. And of course, one comes across mainstream schools where head teachers or principals have enrolled children with disabilities simply because a child is a naturally accepted member of the community and there has been no question of rejecting them from the school. No fuss is necessary in places where people are operating on unspoken principles of inclusion and where barriers that arise are overcome by creativity and community. However, despite the progress along the journey towards access to quality education for children, youth, and adults with disabilities in Fiji, there are obvious challenges we need considering. Teacher training institutions in Fiji have played a vital role in preparing some graduates, including children with disabilities in school. And I look forward to a result of a series of discussions over the next 3 days on how we as a sector can strengthen teacher training to ensure that all teachers are equipped with competencies and given experiential practice which results in confident, committed and passionate teachers who bring a new wave of inclusion across the entire school system. So I do hope that universities, in particular USP, FNU and University of Fiji, take heed to this. In reviewing the current policy and effective implementation of special and inclusive education, a number of issues and challenges come to my mind. So I would like to pose a series of questions to the planners today in this room, which I believe need to be considered in the course of the 3 days of deliberation and planning. And I do understand that you do have a framework, but this might help. And I trust the workshop facilitators will ensure that the results of the discussions are submitted to our office, and I look forward to seeing how these questions have been debated and the actions have been built into the long-term strategy to address them. One, what does inclusive education mean at all educational levels, and what supports are required to ensure our strategy is comprehensively addressing inclusiveness? Two, how can we ensure consistent, high-quality inclusive education competencies among graduates of teacher training institutions and current and future teachers? If you look at the current curriculum of the universities, education curriculums, they do not have any component on special education, on education for children with special needs. So what are the curriculum requirements for a system that meets the needs of all children? How do we adequately meet the human resource needs that will allow us to fulfill our inclusive education goals? How can we link with other ministries to ensure that we are able to deliver our goals of access to education for all, particularly Ministry for Youth and Sports, Ministry for Labour, Ministry for Women and Social Welfare? What are the policy and practice implications for assessment? Are the policies of the ministry in line with inclusive education? So we want to be interrogated and benefit from the wisdom that you have in terms of where are the lapses in our policies, so that we can review that, particularly at this juncture when we are working on reviewing our Education Act. Finally, in order to support implementation of this strategy, how can the ministry strengthen the special and inclusive education unit to maximize its function? Of course, the obvious response you might give is to beef up the number of staff we have. That is something that we are looking at this year. We just started to establish a section on ECE, and so this is the next move. Next year you will see that we will have a small but a section which will at least demonstrate to you our commitment towards ensuring that the special needs children and the institutions that are supporting them get the kind of support and the speed at which you want it through this more visible and expanded section on special education. So that's an assurance. But other than that, what we want to see from you or get from you is, what are the things that we need to do in the ministry uh, to deal effectively with this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm fully aware of the seriousness and complexity of the deliberations you have been called here to undertake, and I encourage you to put your full intellect and commitment into these 3 days of strategizing and planning, and I am anticipate receiving an outcomes document following this meeting. If the evidence is true, an inclusive system improves educational outcomes for all learners and societal outcomes for everyone, then I'm optimistic and hold great hopes for what we will be able to achieve through this strategic plan. And I'm quite impressed, and I'm pretty sure about the outcome given the leadership we have here. Of course, Dr. Pomau there, who got a lot of experience in this area of strategic plan development, and also some of the special features of developing countries like Fiji, where service delivery is an issue, and therefore good to see her there. And also, of course, our former Permanent Secretary of Education, who has inside knowledge about the Ministry of Education and how it operates in a small developing country. So that itself gives us a solid grounding in terms of the practicality of a document like this. So, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to providing this keynote speech, I'm quite pleased to be launching the Toolkit for Disability Inclusive Education in Fiji. I support this wide dissemination and use of this in schools across Fiji to support the inclusion of children with disabilities in Fiji. And I just saw the toolkit with the contents, and are quite impressive. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Minister of Education, Heritage and Arts, I have much pleasure to officially declare this 3-day workshop open, and I wish you all the very best in your discussions and planning, and I look forward to the plan. And as I said, that I hope it's a rolling plan. Ladies and gentlemen, Naka, thank you, and